Amidst the scorching midday sun, a chilling, desperate shriek made everyone in Vu Duc village jump. It didn't take long for people to realize it was coming from the edge of the village. A few young men, still buzzing from drinks, ran ahead to investigate. The loudest voice was Mrs. Two Deans, a prominent villager. "Mrs. Two, what's wrong? Who killed you?" Mr. Dai killed someone." "What? Where? Who did he kill?" Mrs. Two gasped, trying desperately to calm down, but her words were still choked with panic. "At the bamboo grove at the end of the village. Mr. Dai, he killed someone." At this moment, a few more people appeared. They all followed Mrs. Two's frantic directions and rushed towards the bamboo grove. Indeed, what greeted their eyes upon arrival could only be described as horrific. Mr. Dai, whom Mrs. Two had identified as the murderer, was crouching on the ground. His hands were clasped tightly around a naked corpse. "Oh my God, Mr. Dai really killed someone, he really did." Despite the crowd's outcry, Mr. Dai showed no fear or attempt to flee. But then again, a madman like him wouldn't act like a normal person. No one knew Mr. Dai's true origins. They only knew that around the year 2000, he drifted to this area and requested a charity house from the communal committee to settle down. Some rumored he was a soldier who fought in Cambodia, suffering injuries that affected his mind. Others said he had a traumatic brain injury from an accident. There were many speculations and rumors, but no one had ever heard him speak of his life. They only noticed that whenever the weather changed, his headaches worsened significantly. About 3 years prior, Mr. Dai went completely insane. He wandered aimlessly through every corner, from the market to the foot of the bridge, completely neglecting even the charity house. In terms of community relations, he wasn't particularly friendly. In fact, he was extremely unapproachable. There were even times when he would throw rocks at people for no reason. Thus, the villagers of Vu Duc always harbored a sense of apprehension and avoided contact with him. Returning to the present, several young men rushed forward to pin Mr. Dai to the ground. Others carried the body away. It was called a body because it was stiff, cold, and showed no signs of life. The victim was no stranger. It was Thur, a high school student. She lived with her father in a small house, and their circumstances were not affluent. Her father often worked far away in the city, returning only for one day after weeks or even months. Within half an hour, news of Mr. Dai killing Thur spread like wildfire. Quang, Thur's father, rushed back, his face pale and lifeless. Standing beside his daughter's body in the morgue, he crumpled to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. As for Mr. Dai, ever since he was taken to the police station, he only laughed and waved his hands, claiming he didn't kill anyone. But how could anyone believe him when the physical evidence at the scene was so clear? Moreover, a mentally unstable person like him was capable of anything. The past 3 days had been the most agonizing in Quang's life. This afternoon, after burying his unfortunate daughter, he hid a long knife in his shirt and furiously rushed to the communal police station. It didn't take long for him to demand to see the murderer of his daughter. No one would have suspected that this kind, worn-faced man would do anything against the law. Standing before the temporary detention room door, Quang took a deep breath. He muttered to himself that in just a few more moments, he would avenge his daughter. The soft creak of the door opened, and the scene inside quickly appeared. Mr. Dai sat on a chair, handcuffed to a table leg, surrounded by 2 or 3 police officers actively interrogating him. Quang no longer cared about anything else. He pulled the knife from behind his waistband and roared, "You son of a bitch, die." Indeed, the revenge of someone completely unprepared for it would never succeed. Quang hadn't even run 3 steps before a hand from behind grabbed him, pinned him, and wrestled him to the ground. The knife clattered to the floor. "Quang, calm down." The voice belonged to Duc, a police officer who knew Quang's family somewhat. "Let me go, I have to kill him. I have to kill him to avenge Thur." Quang burst into tears, sobbing like a child. It was a stark contrast when across from him, Mr. Dai chuckled as if greatly amused. Duc immediately shouted, "Mr. Dai, keep quiet." Despite Duc's loud command, Mr. Dai continued to laugh as if watching a movie. As for Quang, he stopped his emotional outburst, his eyes filled with seething rage, looking at Duc. "Duc, let me go, I have to kill him." "Quang, calm down, things are as they are. If you kill someone, will little Thur come back to life, or let the law punish him? Punish him? What punishment? I may be ignorant, but I know this madman won't go to jail, won't face the death penalty. He'll even be sent to a mental asylum like an innocent victim. And my daughter is lying 3 feet underground, so where is the justice? Duc fell silent because, indeed, with Mr. Dye's condition, it was very difficult to prosecute him. Moreover, Mr. Dye's innocent denials couldn't be diminished or changed. It took another police officer to help pull Kwang out of the room. Everyone could surely guess that he would never abandon his intention to avenge his daughter. After Kwang left, Duc returned to the interrogation room. He stared intently at Mr. Dye and calmly asked, "Do you know the man who was just here?" In response to Duc's question, Mr. Dye only offered a vacant smile. He pointed at himself and brushed at his body as if removing dirt. Duc frowned but maintained his patience. He repeated his question. "Please cooperate." "Do you know the man who was just here?" I don't know anything. I don't know anything at all." Mr. Dye interrupted Duc, his mouth stretching into a wide, idiotic grin. Knowing he wouldn't gather anything further, Duc stood up and returned to his office to think. Once there, he slumped into his chair, his eyes half closed. If Kwang had experienced 3 days of agony, Duc himself had spent 3 days without appetite or sleep. After all, his relationship with Thur and her father was quite close. Many times, Duc had passed their house and given Thur a ride to school. They talked a lot, and she even told him her dream was to become a math teacher. The more he recalled those old memories, the more heartbroken Duc became. But that wasn't all. According to the preliminary forensic examination, Thur had a large wound on her head, caused by a blunt object, possibly a stone or brick. And before her death, there were signs of sexual assault on her private parts. Revisiting the crime scene and the collected information, Mrs. Tudine adamantly confirmed that only Mr. Dye was with Thur's body. If he wasn't involved, then why was he holding her corpse? After much thought, Duc could only come to one conclusion: Mr. Dye was the killer. Perhaps in a fit of madness, he had lost control of himself. Even as he thought this, Duc immediately let out a heavy sigh. Because, as Kwang, Thur's father, had said earlier, even if Mr. Dye was truly the culprit, with his current physical and mental state, no one could truly hold him accountable. At the end of his workday, Duc closed the case file and left, carrying a mountain of frustration on his back. Time flew by, and more than a week had passed. The tragic case of the young student seemed to have faded somewhat, but it hadn't. This morning, several people working in the fields were passing around fearful stories. Mrs. Le, munching on a sugar cane she'd picked by the roadside, recounted, "Hey, have you heard the news yet? What is it? They say there's a ghost at the bamboo grove at the end of the village last night." "What? A ghost trying to scare us? There were never any ghosts in this area before." "People even say our village has good feng shui, protected by gods, so no evil spirits can invade." "No, I'm not joking." Mrs. Le shook her head, her face becoming stern. "Last night, the witness was Trung, our neighbor. He went out frog gigging and fishing at night. As usual, at exactly 10 p.m., he put on his headlamp, grabbed his basket, and headed out. But he hadn't been gone long before he stumbled back, utterly terrified, only able to make a few incoherent whimpers before collapsing. Initially, everyone thought he had a stroke, but a while later, when he regained consciousness, they were all horrified. He recounted that when he reached the bamboo grove at the end of the village, a shortcut across the river he was about to enter. After only a few steps, something thick dropped from a bamboo branch above. In the beam of his flashlight, Trung clearly saw a human head. The head was rolling, bald, amidst a tangled mess of hair. Terrified, he screamed and ran. A few curious people from nearby houses ran out to check, but strangely, they saw nothing. "Oh, come on, what's the big deal? Maybe Trung was just making things up to scare us." "No, that's not it. Trung is the kind of kid that if he could lie, no one in this whole world could tell the truth. Everyone knows that. Besides, even if he was lying, how could he fake a face drained of all color and drenched in sweat? How could that fool me?" As Mrs. Liu explained this, a few people nodded, agreeing she had a point. "But listen, if there's really a ghost, where did it come from?" "Good heavens, it's so obvious. Have you forgotten about Thur?" The name Thur, once mentioned by Mrs. Le, drew everyone's attention. Or rather, the tormented spirit of the tragically deceased schoolgirl had not yet found peace, lingering in the place where she met her fate. Things then seemed to escalate beyond ordinary gossip. By late afternoon, rumors of Thur's ghost had spread to every corner. Naturally, upon hearing this, Kwang couldn't sit still. He immediately rushed to the bamboo grove at the end of the village, lit a pile of incense, and prostrated himself repeatedly. "My daughter, oh my daughter, if you're wise in death, please let your father see you one more time. I miss you so much." It was easy to see two streams of tears rolling down this poor man's cheeks. The surrounding crowd witnessed his grief, but could do little else. Duc was also there, having just finished work. He slowly got out of his car and approached his friend, placing a hand gently on Kwang's shoulder. "Hey, calm down, the girl is gone, don't be so superstitious anymore. Want to grab a few beers?" Kwang looked up, his eyes filled with sorrow, nodded at his friend. After the two turned and walked away, the crowd also dispersed, each going their own way. Only one figure remained, standing in one spot since the beginning. This was a young man in his 20s, wearing dusty clothes. His eyes followed the others until no one was left around, then he tiptoed towards the large bamboo grove. This young man was named Lewin. He had been a university student in the city, but due to his wild ways, his academic performance plummeted, and he was eventually expelled. Back in his hometown, Lewin didn't seem determined to turn his life around. Instead, he continued to party, gamble, and engage in vices with other youths in town. Now, Lewin recalled what had happened more than 10 days ago. After a few puffs of American weed, given to him by a friend, his mind felt light and his body craved release. Wandering the streets, he caught a glimpse of a girl passing by. He didn't know what he was thinking at the time. He only knew his body needed release, and according to the experiences passed down by others, to counter the effects of the weed, he needed to have a lot of sex. So, the unfortunate girl immediately became Lewin's target. He followed her for about 5 minutes to the bamboo grove at the edge of the village. At this time, no one was there as they were all busy working in the fields. If anyone were to come, it would be another 2 or 3 hours. Without a moment's hesitation, Lewin rushed from behind and pinned the girl to the ground. One hand covered her mouth, the other violently ripped open her shirt. Of course, Lewin encountered fierce resistance. Fearing discovery, all he could think of was how to quickly silence the girl. Seeing a nearby brick, Lewin grabbed it and repeatedly struck her head. Her muffled cries and struggling hands gradually weakened, then stopped entirely. Lewin grinned, stripped her clothes, and proceeded to rape her. When he was finished, Lewin got up and fled. Arriving home, he collapsed onto his bed and fell into a deep sleep. When he woke up that afternoon, Lewin was drenched in a cold sweat. What he had done in his drug-induced haze was beyond imagination, and it was even more terrifying when he heard that the girl he had raped was dead. Lewin was like a ghost himself, even contemplating fleeing. But fortunately for him, the appearance of the old madman, Mr. Dai, meant that Mr. Dai was now taking the fall for him. As of now, Lewin was no longer worried about being exposed. He was just a little confused when he heard rumors of Thur's ghost at the bamboo grove. Standing at the crime scene, where he was the true culprit, he muttered to himself. What he did hadn't been discovered yet, so it was best not to be swayed by rumors, lest people become suspicious. After reassuring himself, Lewin quickly left. Back with Kwang and Duc, they sat at a village pub. The surrounding tables were filled with cheerful noise, yet their table felt like another world, somber and cold. Kwang raised a bottle of liquor and drank deeply, gulp after gulp, until Duc reached out and snatched it away. "Hey, are you crazy? Do you want to die of alcohol poisoning?" "Just leave me be. What's the point of living now?" "Come on, calm down. Things are as they are. Little Thur is gone anyway. Tormenting yourself like this won't bring her back. You need to be strong for her, make her proud to have a father like you." Kwang didn't say anything more, just sighed and sat in silence. After a while, Duc gently asked, "Are you calm now? I have something I want to ask you." "What is it?" Kwang frowned, his swollen eyes fixed on his friend. Why didn't you let the forensics team perform a thorough examination? Surely that would help convict Mr. Dai, wouldn't it?" "What's the point? Even if we forced him to confess, he wouldn't be punished. So why should I let my daughter's body be touched again? I couldn't accept that. And my daughter is already 3 feet underground. I just hate that I can't avenge her." Hearing these heart-wrenching words, Duc didn't want to stir up his friend's pain further. The two silently drank glass after glass. The drinking session ended at midnight. Duc stood up, said goodbye to his friend, and drove away. Naturally, on his way, he passed the bamboo grove where Thur had died. He wasn't usually superstitious about the recent rumors, but for some reason, a cold shiver ran down his spine. He thought it might be due to the late hour and the dew, so he sped up, trying to get home quickly. But as fate would have it, the motorcycle sputtered and came to a halt. Duc was startled. "Oh, damn it!" He quickly got off and looked around, but found no fault. Even the fuel tank was full. Realizing it was getting late, he decided to walk home and take the bike to the shop tomorrow. However, before his hands could even exert force to push the bike, Duc froze, because right in front of him was a shadow, though calling it a person wasn't quite right. The shadow appeared on a high, slender bamboo branch. Even expert climbers would find it difficult to get up there, let alone stand upright as it was now. Time seemed to stand still. Duc strained to see who it was, and just as quickly as it appeared, the shadow vanished in a flash. Duc stood rooted to the spot. It took nearly 5 minutes for him to snap out of it. He quickly pushed his bike and zoomed straight home. His mind was filled with chaotic, wandering thoughts. When he finally lay down in bed, he muttered, "I must have drunk too much and listened to those rumors. My mind is playing tricks on me. No more drinking from now on." With that, he closed his eyes and slowly drifted into a deep sleep. The next morning, Duc returned to his routine work. He sat in his office, his mind still fuzzy from the endless drinking session last night. He wondered how Quang would be if he could overcome this shock. A knock on the door outside interrupted Duc's thoughts. By habit, he called out, "Who is it? The door's unlocked, come in." The door opened from the outside, and someone stepped in. It didn't take long for Duc to recognize Fuang, his female colleague from the Administrative Records Department. Fuang's presence in his office during work hours certainly surprised Duc. He frowned and asked, "Fuang, what are you doing here?" "Mr. Duc, I have something to tell you." "What is it?" "It's about Mr. Quang. You're close to him, aren't you? Quang, the one whose daughter died at the bamboo grove." "Ah, yes, I know him. What about it?" "Oh, come on, just tell me. You know, I'm at a loss." "Well, I wanted to ask you to tell him to hold a ritual for his daughter. Otherwise, her spirit will keep lingering and scaring people." "What?" Duc exclaimed. Needless to say, he was surprised by Fuang's words. He had been hearing these stories all day yesterday to the point of obsession, and now even a colleague was bringing it up. But before he could react, Fuang added, "Mr. Duc, let me tell you something. You know my house is near that area. Last night I went out for something, and when I came back it was past 11 p.m. As I passed the bamboo grove, my scooter suddenly broke down. I got off and checked everything but couldn't find anything wrong. Just then, high up in the bamboo shoots, I saw a figure passing by. It was wearing white and moving from one branch to another. A person couldn't possibly do that, Mr. Duc. I thought I was imagining things and rubbed my eyes, but it didn't disappear. It became even clearer. I saw it was a girl, with long hair covering her face. I was so scared that I abandoned my scooter and ran. When I got home, my parents and brother ran out to check, and they all witnessed the same horrific sight. After a while, a gust of wind came and the shadow vanished with it. My parents said it was the tormented spirit of that tragically deceased student, Thur. If she doesn't find peace, she'll stay here for a long time, affecting everyone's lives. Fuang finished, and Duc felt a shiver run through him. On a normal day, he would readily dismiss everything he had just heard. But today was different, because what his colleague had just described largely coincided with what he had experienced last night on his way home from drinking, especially the spontaneous breakdown of his vehicle. He didn't know when goosebumps had risen on his arms. Of course, Duc didn't want Fuang to see his reaction. He waved his hand at her to reassure her. "It's nothing, just calm down. We're in this profession, talking about spiritual matters isn't appropriate. Someone might hear us and it would be troublesome. No, it's nothing, I understand. Just leave it to me, I'll talk to your friend. You can go back to your office, it's fine." Fuang seemed to want to say something else but stopped. She sighed, nodded, and reluctantly left the room. After she was out of sight, Duc rubbed his temples, looking very tired. But even he couldn't explain the strange occurrences around that bamboo grove. And now, was he supposed to tell Quang to find a master to perform a requiem for his daughter? Wouldn't that just open old wounds? After pondering for a while, Duc decided to keep silent and wait to see how things developed. During that time, at the coffee shop at the beginning of the village, the rowdy youngsters gathered again, revving their engines loudly and showing off their new bikes. Of course, Lewin's presence was indispensable. He sat on his brand new bike, twisting the throttle to create ear-splitting sounds. While in high spirits, Lewin was startled when he heard from his friends that they were about to bring out American weed to play. More than anyone else, Lewin was aware of its harm. If he were to do something wrong again now, he wouldn't be so lucky to have a second Mr. Dye appear to save him. So, Lewin made an excuse of a stomachache and sat in a corner of the shop. And thanks to that, he coincidentally overheard a conversation between the shop owner and some of her friends. "Last time, where did you get that peace charm to ward off evil? Just give me the address." "What for? What else? I want to wear it. My house is on the other side of the river. If I want to go back and forth easily, I have to take the shortcut. But now, with all the rumors about Thur's ghost, I'm too scared to go. It gives me the creeps." "Oh, come on, what rumors? It's true. I even heard a feng shui master came down to examine the land." "Really? So can it be resolved?" "No, how could it be that simple? The master said that the girl's vengeful energy is too strong. No one can do anything about it. She's staying here only to avenge the one who killed her. After her revenge, she'll immediately reincarnate." Hearing this, Lewin felt a pang of guilt. He took a deep breath and continued to listen intently. Good heavens! Mr. Dye, the madman, is about to be tried and sent to a mental hospital, so how can she get her revenge? "I don't know, but if nothing can be done, her spirit might linger at the bamboo grove for a long time." The conversation was interrupted by another customer entering the shop. Lewin's mind, however, was still preoccupied with the phrase, "Thur will get her revenge." If that were true, she would surely avenge the right person. Mr. Dye couldn't take the fall for him anymore. At this thought, Lewin involuntarily shivered, then shook his head, trying to reassure himself. No, there are no such things as ghosts and demons in this world. That day, Lewin threw himself into partying with his friends, which somewhat overshadowed his fear. However, that joy didn't last long. Around 9 p.m., after the drinking session, Lewin was still very sober. He hopped on his scooter and muttered, calculating. Going past that bamboo grove now would be terrifying. All right, I'll take the longer, safer route. So, Lewin sped off in the opposite direction. Along the way, he chuckled, thinking about his vague fears, or rather, scoffing at his own faint-heartedness. But the smile on Lewin's face quickly vanished as his scooter made a clunking sound and abruptly stopped. What's going on? Of course, this wasn't the most terrifying part, because Lewin realized he was standing right in front of the bamboo grove, the very place he had deliberately tried to avoid by taking a different route. Lewin's eyes widened, and he cried out, "Oh my God, why is this happening?" It took him a while to compose himself. He frantically tried to restart the ignition, hoping it would work again. Just then, a high-pitched cackle echoed from behind him, making Lewin jump. Instinctively, he turned to look in the direction of the laughter, and for the first time, Lewin saw what he had been dreading for days. Thur's ghost appeared exactly as described by the people at the coffee shop that morning, a white figure with disheveled hair, hanging precariously from a bamboo branch. He would have given anything at that moment not to witness it. His throat gurgled, emitting indistinct sounds. From across him, the ghost swayed, letting out chilling cackles, and Lewin couldn't bear it any longer. He dropped his scooter and ran headlong, fleeing frantically. When he got home, he locked himself in his room. It took him a while to compose himself. He was gasping for air. "Oh my God, it's terrifying, so scary." Looking at his trembling body, Lewin truly couldn't convince himself that he had merely imagined it. The fear was so intense that all the alcohol in his system vanished. Lewin lay down on his bed, pulling the blanket tight, and after a bit more thought, he finally drifted into sleep. He thought he would forget everything when he woke up. But no, in his very dream, he once again experienced extreme terror. His eyes were still closed, but Lewin felt a hand grasping his leg. The hand was cold as ice, and wherever it touched, his entire body trembled. When he finally opened his eyes, Lewin almost screamed, for the familiar figure with long, covering hair appeared, wailing. "Give me back my life, give me back my life, Duck, come here, Duck, come here," a piercing cry echoed. At this, Lewin let out a loud shout and awoke with a start. He flailed his legs. What's going on here? Lewin then realized that his pajamas were soaking wet. From childhood until now, This was the first time he had been so terrified. The fear was so immense that Lewin didn't even dare to get out of bed to change his pants. He sat hunched, leaning against the wall, until the sound of a rooster crowing from the garden, accompanied by a few rays of morning sun peeking through the window, allowed him to calm down a little. Just then, a knock sounded on the door, making Lewin jump. He trembled, imagining some terrifying entity on the other side of the door. "Who is it?" "It's Mom. Open the door, son. Why is it locked so tightly?" Recognizing his mother, Mrs. Dung's voice, Lewin breathed a sigh of relief. He scrambled out of bed and tiptoed to the door. The door opened, and it was indeed Mrs. Dung. Before she could even step in, she covered her nose. "Good heavens, what's that pungent smell, son? Did you pee on the floor?" Lewin's face turned pale. Peeing on the floor was less embarrassing than peeing in his pants. But it seemed that wasn't Mrs. Dung's main concern. She quickly pulled her son closer, looking at him with a worried gaze, then scanned the room. "Lewin, did you bring a girlfriend home last night?" "What? Why would you say that, Mom?" "Don't hide it. Last night when I heard the gate open, I woke up and stumbled out. Before I could even ask anything, you and that girl rushed straight into your room and slammed the door shut. I even heard giggling all night. Let me tell you this, whatever you do out there is fine, but don't do what you did last night. Luckily, your father didn't know. If he saw, it would be a big deal. So, where is she now?" "No, Mom, I didn't bring anyone home. Don't scare me. There's no one." "Oh, this boy, why are you making things up? I didn't say anything, but if you're going to bring someone home, at least pick someone decent. But what I saw was a student wearing white clothes with long, disheveled hair." Lewin felt as if he had frozen to death, for he silently guessed who Mrs. Dung had seen. Once again, fear completely overwhelmed Lewin's mind. He knelt on the ground, waving his hands frantically, struggling to speak. Mrs. Dung noticed her son's strange reaction and probed. "What's wrong? Is there something you're hiding from your mother?" "Mom, I saw a ghost. I saw a ghost, Mom." He then proceeded to tell her everything, except for the rape and murder of Thur. After hearing it, Mrs. Dung was equally horrified. She clasped her hands together and prayed. "Good heavens, I've told you so many times not to stay out late. Now you must be compatible with that girl's age, so she's following you. This is dangerous, my son. The whole village is buzzing about her ghost." Mom," Lewin rushed to grasp Mrs. Dung's hands imploringly. "Mom, is there any way you can save me? I'm so scared." Mrs. Dung sighed, narrowing her eyes, pondering for a long time, then patted her son's arm. "It's difficult. Prepare yourself. I'll take you to see the little Master Kin on the other side. I hear he's very good. Maybe he can help." Lewin had initially little faith or knowledge in spiritual matters. But now, if there was any way, he would follow. At midday, Mrs. Dung led her son to Master Kin's house. It was called a house, but it looked more like a small shrine. Guarding the gate were two fierce-looking stone guardian statues, so intimidating that Lewin had to close his eyes tightly, not daring to look directly at them. Upon arriving in the courtyard, Mrs. Dung softly called out, "Master, Master Kin?" Very quickly, a figure slowly emerged from behind the small wooden door. Contrary to Lewin's expectations, Master Kin was small and frail. It seemed a strong gust of wind could blow him over. With such an appearance, Lewin's trust in him probably diminished a little. Mrs. Dung clasped her hands respectfully and bowed. "Good day, Master." "Yes, good day, madam. What brings you here?" "My son, he's haunted by a ghost, Master. I brought him here hoping you can use your magic to remove the spirit from him." Master Kin closed his eyes and looked towards Lewin, or rather, his face darkened, as if something terrible was happening to the young man. Not stopping there, he pointed directly at Lewin. "You, stand still. Don't go inside yet. Take the water from the bucket nearby and pour it over yourself." "What?" Lewin frowned, puzzled, but had to obey. He walked over, scooped a bucket of water, and poured it directly from head to toe. In the scorching midday heat, Lewin should have felt refreshed. But no, as the water touched his body, he felt his entire body burning, as if boiling water had been poured over him. Instantly, Lewin dropped the bucket and jumped back. Mrs. Dung was equally terrified, sputtering, "Master, what's wrong with him?" "Calm down, madam, it's nothing. There's too much negative energy, yin energy, in his body, so I need to wash some of it off, otherwise, it will affect his health." The more Mrs. Dung and her son heard, the more frightened they became. About 10 minutes later, the hot sensation gradually dissipated. Lewin and his mother followed Master Qin into the house. The interior space had no ordinary furniture like other houses, but was filled entirely with altars. There must have been 20 or 30 altars, crowding the house, with various statues of gods and Buddhas on them. "Sit here," the master said, pointing to a mat on the floor. Lewin nodded and quickly sat down. The master then stood before an altar, lit several incense sticks, and slowly asked, "What is your name? How old are you? What is your lunar birth date?" "My name is Dang Than Lewin, 20 years old, born on May 17, 2001. "And how did you encounter her spirit?" "What?" Lewin was startled because neither he nor Mrs. Dung had mentioned Thur. They had only said he was being followed by a ghost. "Answer quickly. Of course, I see she's clinging to you tightly, that's how I know." As he spoke, Lewin's face turned pale and he almost confessed his crime. However, he quickly regained his composure. Lewin fabricated a completely different story. "Master, last night I came home late from drinking and passed the bamboo grove at the end of the village. There, the ghost appeared and scared me badly. I ran home, thinking I had escaped, but I kept having nightmares. Please help me, Master. I'm truly terrified." Master Qin paused, muttering something under his breath. Time passed, and after about half an hour, he spoke, "I've been calculating, and there's still something I don't quite understand. If it was simply as you say, why would your body have so much negative energy?" Of course, Lewin understood his question better than anyone else. It wasn't just last night. Lewin was the one behind Thur's death. He clenched his hands, waiting anxiously. "All right, this time I will give you a charm and perform an exorcism. If you still see the girl's ghost, just come back. If she still wants to harm you, then we'll have to resort to the final measure." "The final measure, what is that?" "It's a secret. Heavenly secrets cannot be revealed. Just follow my words. Who knows, maybe this one charm will be enough." With that, Master Qin pulled a charm from his pocket and handed it to Lewin. Lewin and his mother bowed deeply to the ground, thanking him profusely. Returning from Master Qin's house, Lewin's spirits were considerably lifted. At least now he had someone to rely on for help. Entering his room, his mind had stabilized, so he finally noticed the faint, pungent smell of urine from last night. It took him a while to clean up and change the bedsheets before he could finally lie down and rest. Last night, he was practically insane from fear, so it didn't take long for Lewin to fall into a peaceful sleep. And everything took a very positive turn, as Lewin slept straight until afternoon without any nightmares. In the late afternoon, Lewin stepped out of the house in a very relaxed mood. But then he suddenly remembered his motorcycle was still at the bamboo grove, and he felt a bit anxious. Yet, not retrieving it was not an option. So, after a few minutes of internal struggle, Lewin reluctantly went to get his bike. Upon arriving, the motorcycle was still sitting innocently by the roadside. Lewin didn't rush to pick it up. He stood about 10 meters away, carefully observing every nook and cranny. Only when he was sure there were no unusual objects did he slowly approach. The retrieval seemed smooth as the engine started normally. Without a moment's hesitation, Lewin revved the engine and sped off. As the wind brushed his face, Lewin muttered to himself, "Master Qin is truly amazing. Thur's spirit must have really been chased away." Feeling happy, of course, he had to celebrate. Lewin decided to find his friends for a grand feast. After the drinking session, he glanced at his watch and saw it was past 9 p.m., still quite early. With the protective charm on him, Lewin confidently rode straight home. On the road passing the bamboo grove at the end of the village, his motorcycle roared through the night. Lewin didn't even know where he was going, he just sped straight ahead. But a little later, he hesitated when he saw a figure walking unsteadily at the corner of the road in front of him. Getting closer, Lewin recognized her as a girl in a short dress, and a rush of excitement surged through him. He slowed down and whistled softly. "Hey, pretty girl, why are you out on the road so late? Aren't you scared?" The girl heard his call and quickly turned to look. Lewin became even more eager when he saw that her beauty was not diminished. If he could get her into bed, tonight would truly be a perfect night. He pulled his bike over and stopped. "Where do you live? Do you need anything from me?" "No need, my house is nearby, but you can take me somewhere else." Lewin was delighted. Her words were nothing short of an invitation. He gestured towards the back of the bike. "Just hop on, we can talk, I promise you won't regret it." As Lewin said this, the girl quickly climbed onto the bike. Of course, the foolish man had no idea what was about to happen. Lewin started the bike and sped off. Along the way, he deliberately braked a few times to feel the girl's chest press against his back. Needless to say, each time, Lewin felt a thrill and shiver of pleasure. After riding for a while, the girl whispered in his ear, "Brother, we're about to pass the haunted bamboo grove. Aren't you scared?" Lewin realized they were indeed approaching that spot, but he scoffed and dismissed it. "Ghosts? Who do you think I am to be scared of ghosts? No, dear, ghosts should be scared of me." "Is that so?" The girl's laughter rang out, however. Lewin suddenly paused because something felt wrong. Her laughter sounded very familiar. His eyes darted to the rearview mirror to confirm who was sitting behind him, and to his horror, it was no longer the alluring girl from before, but Thur's ghost. Carried by the wind of the speeding bike, her hair no longer covered her face. It flew wildly, revealing 2 blood-red eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. Lewin let out a terrified scream, and in his sheer panic, he lost control of the handlebars. The motorcycle careened into the roadside. Lewin fell to the ground, a throbbing headache overwhelming him, making him dizzy. And then Thur's ghost flew towards him, cackling. Lewin could only stammer out 2 incoherent words before collapsing and losing consciousness. When he woke up, Lewin found himself in a hospital bed at the communal medical station. Surrounding him were Mrs. Dung and some of his friends. He groaned, "Mom, Mom." Mrs. Dung, needless to say, cried out joyfully, "Son, you're awake? Oh my God, how did you manage to get so badly hurt? Do you know your father almost disowned you?" The pain throughout his body momentarily prevented Lewin from sitting up. He whispered, "Mom, how long have I been here?" "Almost a day. I thought you were dead. Why are you so reckless?" Lewin sighed, but the memories of what happened before he passed out resurfaced once more. He mumbled, "So that means Master Qin's charm was ineffective, or perhaps it wasn't strong enough to drive away the ghost. All right then, when I'm better, I'll go back to his house and ask for help again." He seemed to mention a final measure. Fortunately, Lewin's injuries were not too severe, and he was allowed to return home to recuperate. That afternoon, Lewin trudged to Master Qin's house. Seeing Lewin's pathetic state, the master was not surprised, but instead pondered deeply. "This spirit is truly strange. Normally, just one of my charms would be enough to drive it away. Or is there something you haven't told me about this matter? Son, if you're still hiding something at this point, know that the consequences will be far more severe if you don't tell the truth." Of course, Lewin had intended to keep his secret, but he didn't want to put himself in further danger. Thur's ghost could appear at any moment, and the memory of the terrifying night of the accident still lingered in his mind. There was probably no other way. Lewin decided to tell everything. Needless to say, after hearing it, Master Qin was stunned. "Good heavens, so it was you. Do you know how much harm you've caused to so many people?" "Please, Master, please save me. I'm so scared. At that moment I was momentarily confused. I didn't mean to, Master, please help me." Master Qin frowned, stood up, and left the room without a word. A moment later he returned with a charm in his hand. He spoke gravely, "All right, I have a way. If you want to survive, you must follow it. You cannot refuse." "Yes, sir, I will follow. I will definitely follow. Please tell me what to do." "All right, you must take this charm and place it in the mouth of that girl. Then it will be done." "What?" Lewin was so shocked he trembled. He knew Thur had been buried nearly half a month ago. How could he possibly put a charm in her mouth? "Master, don't you have another way? How can I possibly do that?" "There's no other way." Master Qin shook his head and continued. "If you had told me earlier, I would have had other options, but you chose to hide it. I warn you now, if you don't do it quickly, you will surely die." Lewin's limbs went limp, and his face turned as green as a banana leaf. And truly, Lewin had no other choice now. He stammered, trying to clarify. "Master, what exactly do I need to do? Can you come with me?" "No, this matter cannot involve outsiders. You must do it with your own hands. And remember, before you dig up her grave, you must clasp your hands together and confess your sins. I've calculated it for you. Tomorrow night is a good day. Just proceed at midnight, and everything will be done." Lewin remained silent, his mind starting to conjure all sorts of terrifying images. Master Qin continued, "So, can you do it? If not, return the charm to me. This is very rare. It's not something you can get just by wanting it." As he spoke, the master intended to snatch the charm away, but Lewin quickly tucked it into his shirt pocket. Yes, I'll do it, I'll do it. Returning from the master's house, Lewin felt like a walking corpse, and rightly so, for soon he would have to directly confront the very crime he had committed. No more thinking. Whatever happens, happens. What's there to be afraid of? There was still more than a day until the ritual, but the critical thing was that Lewin might be tormented by Thur's ghost tonight. So, he quickly got up, ran to the general store, and bought several packs of cigarettes, hoping they would help him stay awake to get through the night. Mrs. Duc, of course, had no idea what her son was about to do. She occasionally peeked into his room to check on him. Seeing the pile of things Lewin had bought, she wondered if he was in pain and couldn't sleep, needing these things. That's too bad. He shouldn't be using such harmful things. So, she came up with an idea. She went to the market, bought a chicken, and stewed it with medicinal herbs. She even specifically prepared a dose of tranquilizers, hoping it would help her son sleep soundly. After cooking, she brought the pot of stewed chicken to his door and knocked. Lewin, Lewin, the door's unlocked, Mom's coming in. Mrs. Duc pushed the door open and squeezed into the room. The room was now filled with the smell of cigarette smoke. She placed the food on the table, wrinkled her nose, and waved her hand to try and disperse the unpleasant odor. Good heavens, are you trying to smoke yourself to lung cancer? Stop it. I've cooked some herbal chicken stew for you. Eat it and get some rest. Lewin nodded. He hadn't eaten anything all day. The enticing smell of the food intensified his hunger. He reached for the pot of chicken and devoured it, not knowing this was a grave mistake. About half an hour after eating, sleepiness overwhelmed him, compounded by the tranquilizers Mrs. Duc had added. Lewin couldn't resist, and so what was inevitable happened. He collapsed onto the bed and fell into a deep, unconscious sleep. Of course, what awaited Lewin in his dream would also appear. The sound of a door opening startled Lewin. He realized his surroundings were pitch black. He didn't know if he was dreaming or awake, but his only sensation now could be summed up in 2 words: icy cold. Lewin's body trembled violently from the cold, and then a hand from nowhere grabbed his shoulder. This time, there was no doubt. This ice-cold hand belonged to Thur, or rather, it was Thur's vengeful spirit that had appeared. Oh my God, what is this? How can I escape now? Lewin whispered to himself, but he couldn't find a way to escape the current horror. Thur's laughter echoed, reverberating as if rising from the depths of hell. Lewin squeezed his eyes shut, unable to open them, silently wishing for everything to pass. But it couldn't be that easy. The icy hand continued to move up, touching Lewin's neck, then suddenly tightened its grip. Now, he couldn't just lie there and endure it. Lewin's eyes flew open and he tried to struggle, but to his horror, Thur was lying on top of him, her eyes showing savage fury. What's more, her face began to show signs of decomposition. The foul smell, along with maggots crawling out of her eyes and nose, fell onto Lewin's face. It was arguably the most horrific sight he had ever witnessed. Lewin struggled, but his body was utterly powerless. His eyes were filled with tears of terror. Lewin, give me back my life, give me back my life. No, please, a loud scream echoed, followed by a burning pain on his cheek, which woke Lewin up. Lewin, Lewin, the call echoed again, but this time it was Mrs. Duc's voice, no longer Thur's. Lewin gasped, his breathing heavy, like someone returning from the dead. He whispered, "Mom, save me." It took quite a while for Lewin to calm down, and no matter what else Mrs. Duc asked, he couldn't answer. Because of what had just happened, he had made a firm resolution. He must definitely put the charm into Thur's mouth, otherwise he would die from fear and madness. By dawn, Lewin sat on his bed, his legs tightly wrapped around him. Even the slightest sound could make him jump. However, the effects of the tranquilizer and the stewed chicken had worn off. Coupled with the cigarettes, Lewin managed to get through the night. As soon as dawn broke, he quickly stood up and rushed out to the graveyard to assess the situation. It was quite difficult to find Thur's grave because it was deep inside. But that was also good. It meant no one would notice or discover him. Moreover, there were no houses nearby at this time. Feeling somewhat relieved, Lewin returned home to prepare his tools for the task, including a shovel, a flashlight, a crowbar, votive papers, and several incense sticks. He had these because he remembered once watching a movie about grave digging. Furthermore, he even nervously carried a bottle of perfume to spray on himself, hoping to mask the stench from the corpse. Done preparing, Lewin sat numbly on his bed, waiting for time to pass. Normally, a day would fly by for him, but for some reason, today each hour felt twice or thrice as long. At exactly 10 p.m., the crucial moment finally arrived. Lewin leaped off the bed, grabbed his bag of tools, and stealthily prepared to go out. He tried to be as quiet as possible, because if Mrs. Dung woke up, it would only complicate matters. Leaving the house, Lewin trudged silently, heading straight for the graveyard. That night, there was no moonlight, making everything dark and obscure. After about half an hour, he reached his destination. Having scoped out the spot that morning, it didn't take him long to locate Thur's grave. Lewin mumbled, "I truly didn't want things to come to this, but you forced me." Lewin dropped his bag of tools to the ground. Recalling Masterkin's instructions, he knelt down, lit incense sticks on the ground, and slowly spoke. "Thur, what happened that day was truly just an accident. I had smoked weed, so my mind wasn't very stable. But whatever you say, you were too stubborn. Why resist? I would have just done it gently." Just as he pleaded, a gust of wind suddenly blew from somewhere, scattering the votive papers everywhere. Lewin immediately changed his tone, quickly saying, "No, please, I'm truly sorry. It was all my fault. I killed you, I raped you. It was all me, Lewin." A voice called out, startling Lewin. But this voice was not Thur's, it was a man's. And it didn't take long for him to realize that there were dozens of figures around him. "Lewin, you've been arrested. All your words just now have been recorded by us. You have the right to remain silent, but everything you are about to say will be evidence against you in court." What? Lewin was terrified. In the dim light of the flashlights, he recognized two of the figures, Duc, the police officer, and Master Kin. The surrounding crowd were all dressed in police uniforms. "It's over. I've been tricked. I've been utterly deceived," Lewin muttered, glaring at Master Kin. It turned out that when he confessed his sins, the master had secretly reported it to Duc. The two had then concocted a plan to make Lewin confess on his own. Driven to desperation, he tried to struggle and flee, but truly there was no chance. In less than 3 seconds, Lewin was tackled by several hands and pinned tightly to the ground. He screamed loudly, "Damn it, let me go, you bastards." The news of Lewin, the real culprit behind the tragic murder a fortnight ago, quickly sparked a wave of outrage throughout the district. No one could have imagined that a teenager in his early 20s could commit such heinous acts. Mrs. Dung fainted upon hearing the dreadful news and had not yet regained consciousness. Her husband was so ashamed that he wanted to disown his son. And so, the case concluded. Mr. Dai was set free and moved into a social welfare center. As for the culprit, he would face the righteous punishment of the law. A week later, a knock echoed on the dry, brittle wooden door. Kwang softly asked, "Who is it?" "It's me, the sun's high, are you still asleep?" Recognizing Duc's voice, Kwang groggily sat up and slowly walked to open the door. Standing outside, Duc held a basket of fruit. Seeing this, Kwang was curious. "Aren't you working today, and bringing fruit? This isn't like you at all." Duc chuckled and said, "I am working, but I made a quick stop here first. Come in." Kwang opened the door wider, letting his friend in. Once inside, Duc sat down and then quickly approached Thur's altar. He gently placed the fruit basket down and lit an incense stick. Kwang patted his friend's shoulder and asked, "So, where is that nephew now?" "Lewin, he's been taken to the detention center in the district. You can't see him there." "Don't worry, I don't mean that. I don't want to avenge her by killing. Good thing you intervened in time last time, or I don't know what would have happened." Duc nodded, sat at the table, and poured a cup of tea. Kwang's gaze drifted into the distance. "Soon, I'm going somewhere else to live. Where? I don't know, just somewhere in the city to do manual labor and get by. And Thur's grave and offerings here, who will take care of them?" "I've thought it all through. I'll have her ashes scattered and then placed in a temple." "Ah, that's good. I won't have to bury her again." What did you just say? Bury her again?" Duc maintained his calm expression. "The girl's body is still in the morgue." "How can that be? Didn't you say last time that you were just setting a trap to catch Lewin, and he hadn't exhumed her grave yet?" "Yes, that's right. Thur's grave was still intact. I only exhumed it myself the next day." At this, Kwang could no longer maintain his composure. He slammed his hand on the table and jumped up. "Are you crazy? Why would you dig her up? Don't you want her to rest in peace?" "Because I wanted to verify a few things to know exactly who the father of the baby in her womb was." Moving from one surprise to another, Kwang's eyes widened, his lips moved, and he stammered. What did you just say? A baby. Duc pursed his lips and recalled what happened a week ago. After arresting Lewin and bringing him to the station, Duc and the others immediately interrogated him that very night. Of course, with his confession at the grave, Lewin couldn't deny it anymore. Before being taken to the temporary detention room, he blurted out one more sentence. Mr. Duc, I'll take whatever punishment is coming, but I only did it once, and it has nothing to do with the pregnancy in Thur's womb. What did you say? Pregnancy? What pregnancy? Yes, sir, the thing is, when I was with the girl, she kept screaming, Stop, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. I was afraid you'd think I had sex with her many times, so I explained it like that. If so, then I'll be charged with abortion, won't I? But sir, I only did it that one time. After Lewin was taken away, Duc thought a lot. Initially, he thought Thur had shouted that to beg for Lewin's pity, hoping he would stop. But for some reason, he felt a burning sensation in his gut, and he even dreamed of Thur appearing that night. Finally, the next morning, Duc did something extremely audacious, something that could cost him his entire career if exposed. He personally exhumed Thur's grave and took her blood sample for testing. And the result truly startled Duc. Returning to the present, Kwang stood as if paralyzed, confronted by what Duc was saying, mixed with another furious truth. That damn dog, so he abused my daughter countless times. He deserves to be executed. Stop it. It seemed this was the first time Duc had raised his voice at Kwang. Do you want to see the DNA test results? Kwang shook his head vigorously. What are you talking about? Lewin, that dog, he harmed my daughter, you must execute him. Execute him. If he's executed, then what about you? What about your crime of being in Lewin's place for your daughter? Kwang reeled back as Duc, now standing, pulled a file from his bag and threw it onto the table. Through Duc's furious gaze, Kwang understood he couldn't deny it. So, Kwang collapsed to the ground, whispering weakly, No, Duc, you know I tried to convince her to get rid of the baby. It was just that one time I was so drunk when I came home, I was half awake, thinking it was her deceased mother. Shut up, don't make excuses. I truly never thought a friend of mine for so long would be worse than any beast. Have you ever thought about your despicable actions? That night, before the girl died, you adamantly insisted on taking her body home and refused a thorough forensic examination. I'm truly, utterly disappointed. Before Duc's criticism, Kwang suddenly let out a laugh. He stood up, somehow grabbing a knife, put it to his throat, intending to end his life. A powerful thrust from Duc knocked the knife out of Kwang's hand. He stumbled and fell to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. Let me die, please, let me die. It's come to this point, I don't want to hide anymore. I've endured too much torment. Let me die, let me die. Who gave you permission to die? You must live. You must live to bear the sins you've committed. You must live to witness little Thur every day. Every night she appears, doesn't she? You can't escape it. Kwang looked up, his eyes filled with tears, a look of profound suffering. It was true that ever since his daughter's death, he hadn't been able to sleep peacefully. Whenever he closed his eyes, Thur would appear in a terrifying form. There were even times when her belly burst open, revealing a grotesque fetus with a strange face. Both mother and child looked at him and cackled. Now, powerless, Kwang prostrated himself on the ground, weakly saying, I confess everything. Do whatever you want. Duc sighed. A heavy silence enveloped the entire house. He walked over, handcuffed Kwang's hands. The dreams Kwang had mentioned didn't surprise Duc at all. One in front, one behind, they slowly left. In a dark corner of the house, a shadow stood silently watching them with mournful eyes.